You might not know this about me, but I love JRPGs. Anytime a new Tales game comes out, I'll binge the absolute shit out of it. You guys ever play Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles? Well, I did on the original GameCube, and it was amazing. What about Fire Emblem Blazing Sword for the Game Boy Advance? I sunk so many hours into that game on long car rides that I'll always remember Raven's sick-ass critical hit move where he throws his sword and shield up in the air, jumps up, takes the sword, kills the dude, and then catches the shield on the way down. That was f***ing sick. Anyways, you'd think that my love for JRPGs would extend to one of the most popular game series in the genre, Shin Megami Tensei Persona. But you'd be wrong. I've never played a Persona game before, so I thought it's time that I rectified that injustice by playing the absolute 100% undisputed best title, Persona 4 Golden. I chose to play this entry into the Persona series because it's obviously the best one, and not because it was 50% off or anything like that. Now that I have my game, I needed a proper baptism into the world of Persona. So I decided to play 24 hours of Persona 4 Golden to see how far I could get and to gauge whether or not I was missing a Persona-shaped hole in my soul. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I played 24 hours of Persona 4 Golden. But before we arrive at Inaba, allow me to introduce this video sponsor, me. That's right, boys and girls, there will not be a single mid-roll ad in this entire video. All I ask in advance is for you to do 3 things. Number 1, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications. It's completely free and you can always unsubscribe later if you want to. Number 2, if you could smash the like button on this video, that would be awesome. It lets me know that you guys really like this content and want to see more. If this video gets 4,000 likes, I'll play another 24 hours and make a part 2 to this video. I mean, I'll probably make another video anyways, but never hurts to shoot for the stars, am I right? And finally, if you could leave a comment to let me know who your favorite Persona character is and why. I love talking to you guys, and it really helps with engagement and getting this video into recommended feeds. Alright, that's the end of the ad. Let's get into Persona 4 Golden.
Spoiler warning!
I'm about to play a substantial chunk of Persona 4. If you haven't played the game and want to save some of the mystery for yourself, then you should mute this video, minimize your browser window, and come back in like 2 hours. That way I get the engagement metrics, and you get, I don't know, you get to finish your errands, maybe clean some dishes, or, do something else that you wouldn't have time to do otherwise. Sounds like a win-win to me. By the way, I will be doing this playthrough on normal difficulty, just in case any of you were curious. I begin my journey in the back of a pimped-out cobalt interior limousine with 2 strangers. The man with the large nose introduces himself as Igor and asks me my name, which is JackDuckGoose with no E, cause character limits. Igor says I will encounter misfortune and great mystery at my destination. But more importantly, this fine little drink of water to his left is named Margaret. After waking up from what I can only imagine was a crazy fever dream, I arrive at the Inaba train station, and am greeted by my surrogate dad, Ryotaro Dojima, and his cinnamon roll of a daughter, Nanako. As we're all leaving to go home, a self-described unfriendly-looking girl runs into me and says I dropped something. I'm confident I didn't, but she's adamant that I have. And it turns out to be a slip of paper I wrote the Dojima's address on, so I thanked her, then left. The main shopping district of Inaba is our first stop to get gas for the car, and as I get out, Nanako seems to be worried about me as I look a little worse for wear. But don't you worry, Nanako. Everything's fine. I just need to stretch my legs, go for a little jaunt, and it's a long car trip. So I do all that stuff and get some fresh air, then return to the Dojima's where we make our way home. The 3 of us sit down for dinner and toast to my safe arrival, before Papa Dojima gets a call from work, leaving Nanako and I alone for the evening. I ask her about what her dad does, and it turns out he's a local detective. As we eat our grocery store sushi packs, the TV reporters summarize some pop culture gossip. Long and short of this gossip is that some political dude is dating some hot singer girl, but he's suspected of cheating on her with a local TV reporter. But all that really isn't important for now. What is important is Nanako's singing debut.
Every day's great at your Junas.
I swear, if anything bad happens to this child, I will be absolutely distraught. It's been a very long day, so I decided to go to sleep, where I was greeted by a nightmare when I was pursuing some ghost figure and was thrust into combat. I honestly didn't know what to do here, so I pressed guard the entire time, and he eventually ran away, and I was able to wake back up. The morning of my first day of school, 𝐷𝑒𝐻𝐾o has whipped up a delicious and nutritious meal for both of us to enjoy. We make our way down to the floodplain, where 𝐷𝑒𝐻𝐾o points me in the right direction to my school and leaves on her way to go to hers. I really wish I could escort her though. It kind of feels weird just letting this child walk alone. I'll be attending Class 2-2, and the students are abuzz with excitement knowing that I'll be transferring in today. I don't like the cut of this teacher's jib though, so I take a seat without introducing myself, where this short-haired girl understands my distaste for this long-toothed individual. As class ends for the day, an announcement is played over the speakers that all teachers are to gather at the faculty office and all students are to remain in their classrooms. This sends my peers into a panic as they try to deduce why we're staying in class and where the police sirens are coming from. It turns out that some police officers have been dispatched in the school zone and we should go home immediately. But before I can go home, my desk mate, Chie Satonaka, introduces herself and provides introductions to her best friend, Yukiko Amagi. All three of us leave school to head home, where a not-so-friendly looking dude tries to lay some game on Yukiko, and then runs away in tears as he is swiftly rejected. As our little group walks towards the residential area of Inaba, it's revealed that I came to town to live with the Dojimas since my parents are working overseas. But as we're bopping along, we run into an active crime scene. Papa Dojima seems to be the detective on duty and implores me to get home quickly before his number 2 runs out spilling his guts. As I get back home to hang with 𝐷𝑒𝐻𝐾o, it turns out that the crime scene that we stumbled upon was a murder of that local television reporter / alleged adulterer who was found hanging from a television antenna. Jesus Christ, that's dark. But at least I have 𝐷𝑒𝐻𝐾o singing time to brighten my evening.
Every day's great at your Junas.
As I'm walking to school the next day, a boy crashed his bike and got stuck in a trash can. I decided to help him out and officially introduce myself to Yosuke Hanamura. During class, I listened to the lecture and gained some knowledge. And then after class, Yosuke said he would treat us to some steak to finish off this first hour of gameplay. Hour 2 begins at the food court of Junes, a local department store, where I get to know Yosuke and Chie some more. Turns out Yosuke is a city boy just like me, and is currently infatuated with one of his coworkers, Saki Konishi, who seems upset with herself for leaving school early yesterday. As we continue to relax at Junes, Chie mentions a weird phenomenon called the Midnight Channel, where you can look at a turned-off TV on a rainy evening at exactly midnight and see your soulmate. But before I'm able to do that, I have dinner with 𝐷𝑒𝐻𝐾o and Papa Dojima, where a girl who looks suspiciously like Saki Konishi is being interviewed for finding the body of that TV reporter. I guess we now know why she was cursing herself for leaving school early. But now we have another episode of singing with 𝐷𝑒𝐻𝐾o, so everything's fine.
Every day's great at your Junas.
After that delicious meal, I hung out in my room until midnight to see if this Midnight Channel is a hoax or not. It turns out that it is most definitely not a hoax, as I see some pictures on the screen before getting attacked by my thoughts as lightning lights up the night sky. After this viewing, I have been granted the power to phase through my television set, but I gave my head a proper good crack trying to get out. 𝐷𝑒𝐻𝐾o makes sure to check on me before I go to sleep though. Thanks 𝐷𝑒𝐻𝐾o, you're the best. The next day, I walked to school with Chie, who forgot her umbrella, and then answered Mrs. Sofu's history question correctly to get some knowledge points. After the class ends, Chie points out that it was in fact Saki who was interviewed on television for finding the announcer's body, and I was able to tell them about my little trip into the television. But who would believe a strange drifter that just came to town? So, all three of us went to the electronics section of Junes, where I was able to show the two mortals my newfound power on a bigger TV. After appropriately freaking out, all three of us were catapulted into the plasma screen, and I made my first journey into TV World. This aforementioned TV World has a yellow haze that's difficult to see through, so I make sure that all my new friends are okay and get a point in understanding. Since there's no obvious exit, the gang decides to poke around this strange world where we eventually find a room that is just littered with "you do not want to be here" energy. So we go back to our entry point and discover this little bear creature who says that people are being thrown in here. In an attempt to get answers, cie scares the little bear, but I'm able to comfort him enough to convince him to summon a couple of TVs that will serve as our exit. Back at the electronics department of 𝐿, cie notices that the scrapped posters in that creepy room were that of the singer whose husband allegedly cheated on her with the dead lady. All of this is far too much for me and the gang, so we call it a day and head home, where Papa Dojima is waiting for me to ask about Saki Konishi, who has apparently disappeared. Again, this is way too much tragedy for one day, so I'm hitting the hay. The next morning, we're greeted by another horrific sight that I'm gonna blur out because, what the f***? It turns out that thing that I blurred was Saki Konishi, who was found deceased this morning to the shock and horror of everyone in school. According to some gossipy ladies, her death was very similar to the TV announcer lady, and Yosuke believes that was the lady that he saw on the Midnight Channel 2 nights ago. He's convinced that the Midnight Channel and the death of the two women are linked, and I, for one, agree with our headphone-wearing friend. Yosuke decides going to class is for losers and nerds, so he runs over to 𝐿 to see what everything's about, and cie and I decide to run after him. We eventually catch up, and Yosuke is equipped with some rope and a golf driver. I make it known that cie should be the one to hold on to the rope, and I get a little understanding increase because of it. Yosuke entrusts cie with our lifeline, and the two of us make our way into TV World. Unsurprisingly, as soon as we make it in, the rope snaps, and cie is left to stress out. Yosuke and I meet up with the bear, and we both realize that our lifeline is no good. So we quickly search our bear friend to see if he's hiding any goodies, but he's just hollow. The bear then makes us promise to find out who's throwing people into his home, and we formally meet our new friend, Teddy. Now that we're friends, Teddy gives us the fun stuff he's been holding on to. A couple pair of glasses that will completely lift the fog of the TV world and allow us to traverse the strange terrain. Unfortunately for Yosuke and I, Teddy can't fight, as proven by his complete lack of balance when I try to push him. As the three of us go through TV World, we stumble upon an area that looks like the central shopping district of Inaba, and Teddy says that this world is reality of the one who's here. We eventually arrived at the Konishi family liquor store, and some black and red swirlies are coming out of the doorframe. As we attempt to go in, these scary masked men are born from the swirlies, and I have a really bad headache. When I eventually come to, a playing card is in my hand, and in a ridiculously bright flash of light, I'm compelled to say a single word: Persona. And now I have a brand new power with this cool-ass looking dude, Izanagi. Thus, it's time for my first proper battle. Lucky enough for me, these little dudes are weak to lightning damage, so this fight gets wrapped up pretty quickly, and I end this second hour of gameplay by grabbing my first achievement for this run, the Other Self, by obtaining the Persona Izanagi. After receiving some pats on the back from Teddy and Yosuke, I start hour 3 by getting back to the investigation and running into the liquor store. An ethereal voice that sounds like Yosuke is saying some crazy shit, and we encounter our first ever shadow, a mirror image of Yosuke. Real Yosuke makes the silly mistake of saying, "You're not me," to his shadow doppelganger, prompting the creature to reveal his true form in a burst of white light. With that, I am thrust into my first ever boss fight. I won't play the whole thing since it took a while and I'm embarrassed about my battling abilities, but I successfully dispatched the true form of Shadow Yosuke and got another level up for myself and my persona. With this shadow tamed, Teddy explains that Yosuke must accept this part of him, no matter how disgusting, or it will go berserk again. Eventually, Yosuke admits that this shadow is an ugly piece of him, and through his strength of his heart to face himself, Yosuke is gifted with his own persona for facing his fears, Jiraiya. With two personas in tow, the gang returns to center stage, and Yosuke is officially convinced that Saki and the announcer lady met their doom in the TV world to their shadows. But Teddy informs us that they were safe before the fog set in on our world. So as long as we can rescue any other potential victims before the weather turns, no one else has to die to their shadows. With this new information collected, Yosuke and I leave the TV world with Teddy's assistance and return to 𝐿, where cie is rightfully so pissed off. She hurls the rope at Yosuke and storms off, and Yosuke and I would diverge soon after. As I was walking home, I saw Yukiko taking cover from the rain near the floodplain. So I sat down to chat with her, since she needed to do some venting about how difficult it is to manage an inn at such a young age. I made it home and Nanako informed me that Papa Dojima would be at work this evening, but she's got me, so no need to worry. As we're eating dinner, Yukiko ends up popping on the screen as she's being interviewed about running the inn that the recently deceased TV reporter was staying at. That evening, I once again decided to watch the Midnight Channel, where an out-of-focus woman wearing a kimono was shown. But that's a problem for another day. As I took a well-needed rest, Igor and Margaret transport my mind to the Velvet Room and gift me a key so I can visit whenever I want. The two also explain the concept of social links, a mechanic where connecting with various people I've met in Inaba will strengthen my persona and help with unraveling this mystery. As I was walking to school, Yosuke ran into me and mentioned that he had no idea who was on the Midnight Channel last night, but we resolved to put an end to it together, resulting in my first ever social link in the Magician Arcana. A nice bonus is that Yosuke can also wake people up in battle now. When we finish class, Chie is adamant that Yukiko is who she saw on the Midnight Channel, judging from the kimono she wears. Yosuke and I caught her up on the whole TV world thing, so it's possible that Yukiko's already in there. Chie tried her cell, but no answer. But she was able to get in touch with her through the phone at the inn. So we know she's safe for now. But that begs the question, how was she on the Midnight Channel? The entire gang head back over to Junes, but a sale in electronics makes it so we can't go in. Luckily, we can talk to Teddy through the TV, but he is adamant that there is no one in here. Just in case anything pops up, I get Yosuke's cell number before going home. Another rainy evening means the Midnight Channel is live. And as the clock strikes midnight, a crystal clear program starts starring Yukiko. She's saying a whole bunch of stuff that does not fit with her character, like catching a hot stud and getting a whole harem before running into a castle with the same red and black vortex as the Konishi liquor store. When the program ends, Yosuke gives me a call summarizing what we already witnessed and requests we meet up at Junes tomorrow. I'm not too worried about the TV world with my persona, but I am worried about Nanako staying home by herself. But she doesn't seem to have a problem with that as long as she has her TV. It took Yosuke quite a long time to get to the Junes food court, but that's only because he comes bearing gifts, an imitation katana and Nata axe. I'm more of a katana man, so I select that weapon, and then Yosuke starts doing some sweet moves which draw the attention of many armed police officers that take us into custody to end Hour 3. You could say we're lucky that they didn't shoot on sight. Papa Dojima calls in a few favors to start Hour 4, so we're free to go, albeit with our weapons confiscated. I don't know how Chie knew we were at the station, but Yosuke and I ran into her on our way out. She brings ill news though. Yukiko has disappeared. We need to go into TV World, but we don't have any weapons. Luckily for us, Chie knows the perfect place. I guess Yosuke got paid recently, so he hands me 5,000 yen, and I go on a spending spree, picking up some armor for the gang, along with some new swords for Yosuke and I. We all decided to meet up at Junes later, but as I'm walking away, a magical blue doorway appears in front of me. I can now use this with my velvet key to make my way back to the limousine where Igor tells me about how he can fuse personas together, and Margaret informs me about the compendium and registering personas. Today, they are joined by the unfriendly-looking girl, now named Marie, that I met at the train station when I arrived at Inaba. She deals in skill cards, which are basically like technical machines in Pokemon. With that info dump out of the way, I made my way back to Junes and entered TV World with Yosuke and Chie. Since Chie is blinded by worry, she runs off, leaving Teddy, Yosuke, and I to chase after her. All of us arrive at the castle we saw in the Midnight Channel, and Teddy confirms that whatever we saw on the TV in our world is most definitely not a production, but more likely it's something the person on the screen wants to show us. In any case, Chie runs away from us again, leaving Yosuke and I to go to the castle alone to search for that stubborn girl and see what's up. Yukiko's castle is our first ever dungeon, but they're pretty straightforward. You run down the path and open doors to reveal a new path, a treasure room, or a staircase to progress up. Along the routes are shadows trying to attack you, and I had no clue how the encounters work, so my first ever encounter is done with disadvantage because they attacked me from behind. At this low level, the fights really aren't that difficult, especially with two people. But I did discover a couple things in this first battle. Number one is the all-out attack that you can perform when all enemies are down, and number two is shuffle time. This is an infrequent little card game that allows you to collect personas, chess keys, skill cards, and pretty much every other handy thing that you would want when you win a battle. You can get shuffle times more frequently if you win a battle with an all-out attack or consistently knock down enemies. With that quick crash course in battles done, Yosuke and I fight through the first floor and run into Chie in a large circular room on the second floor. I guess she passed out or something cause she has no idea about how she got here. But what Yosuke and I do know is that this shadow version of Chie means business. Much like Yosuke's shadow, Chie's shadow is all too happy to tell us all of her darkest and most ugly thoughts and feelings, especially those directed towards Yukiko. It's understandable that Chie is embarrassed, but the last thing Yosuke and I want her to do is say the magic words. You're not me. So what does Chie do? She says those exact words, and springs her shadow's true form to light, thrusting us into battle. Just like the Shadow Yosuke boss battle, there aren't that many interesting twists or turns to this fight. The enemy is weak to wind damage, so Yosuke uses his persona ability a lot. At this low level, the bosses are essentially damage sponges. It just takes a long time to beat them, and there isn't much strategy involved. Yosuke and I do end up defeating the Banana Queen, and Chie can finally accept that they are one and the same, regardless of some of the disgusting things that the Shadow has said about her. With Chie's strength and bravery being shown, she has also been granted with a persona, Tomoe, and can now fight with us. Unfortunately though, all that facing your inner demons mumbo-jumbo takes it out of her, so the whole gang decides to leave the castle for the day, as we let Chie know that there's no hard feelings and running in before us. Back at our landing spot, Teddy graces Chie with the power of sight, with the gift of her very own TV World glasses. And the group holds a democratic election for team leader, where I reluctantly accept the position. After being unanimously elected, I've established another social link, this one for the investigation team, which will help with powering up personas from the Fool Arcana. With that all done, we decided to call it a day with the caveat of keeping track of the weather, so Yukiko doesn't get eaten up by her own shadow. As I arrived home to have dinner with the fam, Papa Dojima wants to make sure I'm staying safe. But he's got nothing to worry about. It's not like I'm risking my life in a weird TV world, fighting cosmic horrors or anything like that. I checked the weather on the TV, and it looks like we have a ton of time to save Yukiko, so that's good. Before I went to bed, my teacher called the house saying he has something for me, and to swing by the shopping district. I ran out in the middle of the night to get a PE uniform, so that's a great use of my time, especially the last action of Hour 4. Hour 5 picks up in the classroom as lessons for the day have yet to begin. Chie comes up to me and lets me know that I'm a stand-up guy who won't let her or anyone else down. And with that compliment, I have established yet another social link, this time with Chie Satonaka of the Chariot Arcana. I attempted to ask Chie for her cell phone number flat out, but I have the courage level of a coward, so I get her digits by pretending it's for the investigation. During this afternoon's lessons, Mr. Kondo asks about the alphabet, and of course, ya boy gives the correct answer of beta and gains some knowledge points. This was the first day that I was actually allowed to run around and choose what I did after school. Every other day, I was just carted to and from places. But now I can pick up side quests like this riddle from one of the third years, or do whatever else I want. But I'm a naturally worried guy, so I went to Junes with the gang and entered TV World. I did a whole bunch of fights, got a couple of shuffle times, and even got myself an achievement for fighting in the PE uniform my teacher gave me. I eventually got a shuffle time where I activated my first ever sweep bonus. This mechanic can be achieved by collecting all the cards during a shuffle time, and provides some cool perks, like a guaranteed shuffle time for your next battle victory, and starting that shuffle time with 3 tries instead of the typical 1. As I traversed through Yukiko's castle, I learned that you could attack enemies from behind and start a battle with advantage, which also got me another achievement. The gang and I made our way up to the 3rd floor of the castle, where we found Shadow Yukiko waiting for us to announce her game show, Princess Yukiko's Hunt for Her Prince Charming. She then made a very crude comment about her prince waiting with bells on, and decided to skedaddle. Yukiko's castle has 8 floors, so we had to continue finding our way up using new personas I got along the way. The gang and I even ran into the almighty Golden Hand. These little guys are pretty tough, but the XP and money you can get from them are well worth the time it takes to kill them. Plus, you'll want to dispatch at least one to get that achievement. I pretty much spent the entirety of Hour 5 going through Yukiko's castle, making it all the way to Floor 5 where I fought my first mini-boss. I'm not too proud to admit that fighting this mini-boss took up most of Hour 6. I might have even died once or twice, but I was able to defeat him eventually using the power of fire and a lot of healing from Yosuke's persona. I reached level 6 in the castle and decided to call it a day by utilizing a go home item that Teddy gave me, then went into the Velvet Room. I gave Marie a couple of skill cards I collected from some shuffle times and was rewarded with yet another achievement. And then I had Igor do my first ever persona fusion. He combined an angel and a Sandman persona to create the persona Sylph. With that done, I left TV World and ran home to check my calendar to see what days I have on vacation next month, then hit the sack for the evening. As I was making my way to school the next morning, I heard two chatty students talk about how sports clubs are open for enrollment today. So I went to the faculty lounge after classes to get some info from Professor Moron. I eventually settled on joining the soccer club since basketball isn't my style, and I met Ko and Daisuke, captains of the basketball and soccer teams respectively. Obviously, us jocks formed a quick bond that resulted in activating yet another social link, the fellow athletes link in the Strength Arcana. As I arrived home, Papa Dojima seemed to be working late, so I took this opportunity to sneak out and see what the Inaba nightlife is all about. The Shiroku store transforms into a trading post when the lights go out, and the Chinese dinner Aya had some mabu tofu on sale. So I decided to give that dish a try and greatly increased my courage points to end the day. The next morning, I walked to school with Yosuke before feeding him the totally right answer to a question in class. Yosuke now owes me another steak dinner. It's not like I was guessing or anything like that. Not only do I get that steak, but I also got an expression increase. After classes ended, I hit up the weapon shop where I can sell off all the collected materials I got from the monster drops. And while I'm here, I decided to pick up some better armor and shoes for Chie, as well as a nice new sword for myself. I went over to the Shiroku store to see what they sold in the daytime, then gathered the gang back at Junes to do another dive into TV World to start off Hour 7. I think I've mentioned this before, but Yukiko's castle is an 8-floor dungeon, so we already knocked out a lot of it. But I still have a couple more floors to get through that are filled with enemies that are fairly difficult at the level I'm currently at. By the time I got up to the boss room, my health and spirit points were so low for all of my party that I wouldn't stand a chance. So I made a tactical retreat and left TV World to rest for the day. I walked to school with Yosuke this morning where he said that we shouldn't have to worry about the fog settling in, which is reassuring. And then Daisuke asked me to hang out with the soccer club after school during our lunch break. So I went to play soccer with the boys after school and got a diligence increase as well as being bullied to clean up alone. One understanding increase later, Daisuke and Ko ended up helping me out and I unlocked rank 2 in the fellow athletes social link. I ended that afternoon by hanging out with the boys and eating some food. But I had a case of the rumblies that evening and came back for some pork rib noodles, which got me another diligence upgrade. I walked to school with Yosuke again the next day, and we decided that we would finally save Yukiko today. So we popped through into TV World and ran into the boss room where Shadow Yukiko has real Yukiko down and out. Eventually, Yukiko summons the strength to get up and say the words that no one in the world should say when confronting a shadow version of yourself, and prompted the transformation of her darkest thoughts into some weird, caged bird thing with a long-ass neck. I'll be the first to say that I struggled with this boss fight. Between the bird girl summoning help and having an enormous pool of health, it made for a long bout. I even ended up switching personas 5 times for healing, but I got an achievement out of it, so that's pretty nice. Eventually, I was able to chip away at the boss's health little by little until Chie could put it out of its misery with a little ice attack. With Yukiko no longer in danger, we helped her back on her feet, and the two ladies admitted their long-held resentments and reconciled their friendship. Yukiko summoned the strength to admit the boy-obsessed Shadow was a part of her, and she was rewarded with her very own persona, Konohana Sakuya. We interrogated Yukiko a little bit as to who threw her into the TV, but she had an amnesic moment and has no clue who did it. One good thing did come out of this, and that's Teddy is now convinced that we aren't the real culprits anymore. There is one thing that you do need to know about Teddy, and it's that this bare shell person wants to get down and nasty with Yukiko. So I'll need to keep him on a tight leash. With that dungeon complete, we have successfully rescued Yukiko from TV World, and now we just have to wait for her to recover. I also got another achievement, so there's a little cherry on top. As Nanako and I are watching TV, Papa Dojima arrives home with his number 2, Toru Adachi. And it looks like all 4 of us will be enjoying a celebratory meal for the safe return of Yukiko to put an end to this hour of gameplay. As I'm walking to school to start Hour 8, I overhear some ladies talking about the part-time job listings on the town bulletin board. But I can check those out later. It's not every day that you can purposely answer a question wrong in class and embarrass your good friend Yosuke. Since there isn't anyone in TV World to save, I have a good couple of days to run around and explore. I was finally able to figure out this student's trivia question on the 3rd floor and completed my first side quest and got some chess keys while I'm at it. I decided to attend soccer practice after school and became more diligent. I then spent the evening in the Velvet Room, combining some personas to make 𝐎𝐵𝗵𝗲, before running over to my favorite restaurant to have a delicious steak bowl to increase my understanding. A day off from school saw me spend my morning selling all of my collected dungeon materials, then running over to the bulletin board to see what part-time jobs are all about. I didn't end up taking any, but it's just another way to increase your stats, make some money, and meet people. Right now, I think it's more important that I work on my social links with my real friends instead of finding more. So I spent the afternoon talking to Yosuke about his parents and moving to Inaba, and was able to upgrade the magician social link to level 2. That evening, I ran into cie down by my favorite restaurant and learned that you can increase friendship with people at night, but not social links. So I had a brief chat with cie about romance and stuff that, is kind of embarrassing, so she decides to dodge the question. But it's back to school the next day, where some yappy ladies mentioned that the cultural clubs are now able to be joined. But before I do that, I have to embarrass myself in front of my peers by not knowing what overcompensation is. After school, I picked up another side quest from a classmate, then went to talk to Professor Moron to ask what cultural clubs I can join. I have to decide between joining the drama club and music club. And I eventually decided on drama because you know me, I love me some drama. On my first day at drama club, I met the members, the most important of which being Yumi Ozawa. As the other members left for the day, Yumi gave me some personal lessons and were able to form a small bond, resulting in another social link. This one will give me a boost in creating personas from the Sun Arcana. Also, shout out to Nanako for doing the shopping today so I can make some delicious gingered pork for lunch tomorrow. I made my way to school alone today and then got another one of my friends to publicly humiliate themselves by feeding them wrong answers in class. I felt bad for embarrassing Chie, so I shared my ginger pork bento with her on the rooftop, and then decided to hang out with her after school to just show how sorry I was. We went over to the park by the floodplain, where we did some training, whatever that means. All that matters to me is that I was able to increase my social link with Chie and unlock level 2 in the Chariot Arcana. Hanging with Chie kind of kills brain cells, so I decided to repair the damage done by studying this evening. After school the next day, I ran over to the local Chinese restaurant and attempted to conquer the Rainy Day Mega Beef Bowl Challenge. I failed spectacularly, but managed to get my understanding state up to kindly, as well as improving a whole bunch of other stats. I decided to spend another evening studying since I had nothing better to do. On my way to school the next day, Chie mentioned that Yukiko will be returning to school soon, so that's nice to hear. Yumi approached me during lunch to make sure I'd be attending drama club after school, and I had nothing better to do, so I accepted. I got my expression increase and then did some scene practice with Yumi to upgrade my Sun Arcana social link to level 2. Papa Dojima was absent this evening, so I ran to the shopping district and saw Datara's shop was still open and offering a discount. So I bought myself a new sword, then finished the evening by doing some more studying. Lucky for me, I had the day off for Showa Day, so I went over to the bookstore to grab all the pieces of literature they had in stock. That evening, as Papa Dojima and Nanako were enjoying some post-dinner tea, I got another helping of Nanako singing time.
Every day's great at your Junas.
And planned a fun little trip with the family for Golden Week. Just to make extra special sure that no one is going to die this evening, I watched the Midnight Channel, and to my relief, no one appeared since Yukiko was safe, but I did get a little peek as to who our killer is. The next morning, Yukiko finally returned to school now that she's recovered from the TV world hellscape. Obviously, she's a little embarrassed about all her darkest thoughts being put on display like that, but at least she's alive thanks to yours truly. During class, I was able to answer a question about the largest valley in the galaxy correctly, and got a solid knowledge boost, before gathering at the rooftop with Yosuke, Chie, and Yukiko. We still have no idea who is causing all the chaos and violence in town, but we're the only ones who can stop them. Since Yukiko now has a persona, and more importantly, a vested interest in tracking down the person who attempted to murder her, she decides to officially join the investigation team. Yukiko's addition also upgraded the social link for the Fool Arcana to level 2. With all the formalities out of the way, all 4 of us enjoyed some delicious cup ramen. But Yosuke and I got a little overeager and ate it all, so we have been reprimanded by treating the ladies to some steak over at Junez Food Court. While we're enjoying our second meal, Papa Dojima's partner Adachi walked on over and spilled the beans on some sensitive information only available to the police, and asked us not to tell my pseudo-father figure before bolting back to the station. Since Yukiko is officially part of the investigation now, we have to pop on over to TV World to start hour 9, so that she can reintroduce herself to Teddy and get her pair of magic glasses. That evening, I confirmed my lack of Golden Week plans with Papa Dojima and Nanako, so now we can all go on a fun little travel trip, equipped with boxed lunches and everything. Before bed, I decided to read some pages of the Lovely Man book to get my courage up, and ended up reading the whole thing as the sun came up, getting my courage up to the reliable level. That evening, I spent some time chatting with Chie outside the Chinese restaurant, then talked to Yukiko the next morning before school about my Golden Week plans with the Dojimas, which should be a lot of fun. Professor Moran was lecturing today about midterms, but he did drop that being smart leads to popularity, so I did gain some knowledge this time around. After school, I picked up a couple of side quests from some other students. This girl wants an angel statue, and this guy wants a demon statue. After that, Chie asked for some assistance with studying, so we went to the library to solve some difficult equations, and I was able to upgrade my knowledge stat to informed, as well as deepening my friendship with Chie. That evening, Nanako received a call from her dad while we're having dinner, which revealed that our planned family trip during Golden Week had to be canceled, much to our disappointment. To make myself feel better, I ate an old pickle in the fridge and got a solid courage stat boost before bed. The Golden Week break has finally come around, and Chie was at my front door to invite myself and Nanako out to a fun little group trip to Junes, Nanako's favorite place. Nanako then dropped a bomb in front of my friends that her mom died in an accident, and that kind of just killed the vibe. But she brings it back up by letting everyone know that there's nothing to worry about, and she has Papa Dojima and now me, her brother. She's so f***ing cute. Nothing bad will ever happen to her over my dead body. Anyways, that little trauma dump session resulted in the establishment of another social link, this time with Nanako in the Justice Arcana. I then spent the evening studying for midterms, and then got a call from Yosuke the next morning inviting Nanako and I to Junes again, this time with my fellow athletes, Daisuke and Ko. Daisuke mentioned falling into a TV this big, which totally could never happen, Daisuke. Like, that's just crazy, man. Yeah, that's crazy. I then studied some more to end the day. The final day of Golden Week begins at the train station, getting some soda, and then I ran over to the shrine where a fox is staring at me from the top of a building. After completing a quest for a wish or something like that, the fox was very happy with the tip a passerby gave him, and thus established another social link with me, under the Hermit Arcana. Kinda random if you ask me, but I'm not gonna complain. That evening, Papa Dojima returned from work with some gifts in tow to apologize for having to cancel our Golden Week trip. But Nanako had lots of fun hanging out with me and my friends. For Children's Day, Nanako got a cute little t-shirt with a duck on it, and I got some swimming trunks, which will come in handy for future water sports. The three of us enjoyed a lovely meal before I called it a day by doing some late night studying for the knowledge boost. The next day, Chie and Yosuke are at each other's throats once again for some unknown reason, and I spend time after school collecting a couple of side quests from one of my classmates and some random dude down by the floodplain. At the shrine, I can now draw fortunes for social link boosts, but it's much easier just to spend time with my friends like I did today with Yosuke. These two city boys went all the way down to Okina Station, where we talked about not minding Inaba too much anymore, which upgraded the Magician social link to level 3. Not only do I get a boost when creating those personas now, but Yosuke can also do a cool follow-up attack. I returned home and got a proper lecture from Papa Dojima about being safe and not getting involved in the police investigation. I know he's just doing his surrogate paternal duty, but we did establish another social link, the Hierophant Arcana with Ryotaro Dojima. On my way to school, the chatty Cathletes gently reminded me that the midterms start soon. And nothing is more detrimental to my confidence than answering an English to Japanese translation question wrong in class. As class was getting out, a strike of lightning knocks out all the power in school. Chie is somehow afraid of the dark, even though we fight shadow monsters in a television world on a weekly basis, and me reminding her of that fact comforts her long enough until the power comes back on. Since midterms are quickly reaching the horizon, I spent the afternoon studying in the library, getting some double knowledge XP thanks to the rainstorm going on outside. I chose to spend my evening with Nanako since that's obviously the best use of your time in this game, as I ended hour 9 of gameplay. Hour 10 begins on a well-needed day off where Chie called me up to hang out and take a study break. We met at the floodplain and I let Nanako tag along, where we both learned that Chie is afraid of bugs. I'm sure Chie would love to hear that being afraid of bugs is a feminine trait, so I tell her that and I was correct. Oh, I love being right. Anyways, Nanako ended up running off somewhere, so Chie and I talked some more about bugs and shadows and whatnot, and I was able to upgrade the Chariot social link to level 3. Much like Yosuke's level 3 link, Chie also got the ability to do a cool follow-up move in battle. After Nanako left me and Chie at the floodplain, she ended up going home to do some homework. She had to make some flowers for Mother's Day. But since she doesn't have a mom, she has no clue what to do with them. So we decided to give them to Papa Dojima instead. So I spent the evening in the kitchen table with Nanako, making a whole bunch of origami flowers. That being said, midterms are starting tomorrow, so I have to make sure to study in the evening. The next morning, Chie and I walked to school, and then the testing began. Over the course of 4 days, I think I did pretty well. I answered all but one question correctly, so I think I'm looking at like a solid C+. As the gang and I are debriefing after midterms, we heard some chatter from some other students about a news crew in town. Turns out they're not doing a story about the murders, but about some biker gang in town that is causing a ruckus. According to Yosuke, there is a first-year student associated with one of those gangs who is a total legend. Well, he can't be too much of a legend, I've never heard of him. Anyways, I've got drama club to attend to with Yumi. I got my little expressions boost from acting class, but then Yumi was called to the hospital. Obviously, the health of whoever's injured is more important than acting, so I ask her, hey, you want me to escort you? But she's like, nah, I'm good. But because I'm a nosy boy, I made my way to the hospital anyways, and found out that her mother didn't actually collapse. She just lied so that Yumi would come to see her estranged father who's on his deathbed. Yumi is understandably upset with this whole situation and just is like, nope, not visiting him, I don't care. And then she confronts me about being here and calls me a bad actor for lying. Turns out her dad abandoned the family after he found a new woman, so I attempted to comfort Yumi in her rage-induced state. That didn't really work too well, but it at least worked in a way that Yumi was allowed to vent. So we leveled up the Sun Arcana social link to level 3. Back at home, I made some long-simmered meat stew for lunch tomorrow before bed. Again, shout out Nanako for doing the groceries. And then I shared that stew with Daisuke and Ko on the roof the next day, and they seemed to enjoy it enough. I ended this hour of gameplay by convincing the gang to go back into TV World to test our new abilities. I kid you not, I spent all of hour 11 in Yukiko's castle just fighting monsters and going back up the floors. I even got an achievement for exploiting enemy weaknesses 100 times, which is pretty neat. Now that Chie and Yosuke's social links are at level 3, they can do follow-up attacks. Chie does a galactic punt, which completely removes an enemy from battle, which is amazing. And Yosuke has a move called Yosuke Strike, which does like a solid amount of damage, but it's definitely not as cool as Chie's. The coolest attack, though, that I did discover was Chie and Yukiko do this like twin dragon combined attack thing, which is beautiful and powerful, 10 out of 10. Also, not for nothing, I got the Skilled Commander achievement for doing 50 all-out attacks. During this dungeon run, I managed to reach level 15, which has the added perk of being able to store 8 personas, and I made it all the way up to the 8th floor again, where I encountered an optional boss, the Contrarian King, which I totally wasn't ready for. He whooped my ass, dude. It was like, ba 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 ba, you're dead. Instead of trying again, I just called it there and went to the Velvet Room to fuse some personas. I made Valkyrie, Kusith, Titan, Oberon, Archangel, Mokoi, Elgior, Jack Frost, and Shazai. I also collected a couple skill cards during my dungeon run, so I donated those to Marie to finish off this hour of gameplay. Hour 12 begins with Nanako, Papa Dojima, and I enjoying some after-dinner tea and watching the news. Dojima immediately recognizes the voice of Kanji Tatsumi, the first year that Yosuke and the kids in class were referencing yesterday morning. The next day at school, I met with the gang after class where we all promised to watch the Midnight Channel tonight, since it was going to be a rainy one. Chie's hunch was correct, and it appears that another victim is in the scope of the Midnight Channel killer. But the only thing Yosuke and I can make out is that the next victim is probably a man, before calling it an evening. We all decide to meet up at Junes on our day off and establish that all we can really do is keep watching the Midnight Channel to see if we can get a better idea of who is going to be kidnapped. So that's exactly what we do that night. This time around, the picture is much clearer, and it's become painfully obvious to Yosuke and I that the next victim will be Kanji Tatsumi, the bad boy first year. Instead of going straight to bed to prepare for tomorrow, Yosuke's primal urge for male bonding rears its head by asking who each other's crushes are like we're at sleepaway camp. I answered that I'm not really into Yukiko or Chie, which resulted in a solid courage stat boost. As the gang and I are chatting after class, it's revealed that Yukiko knows the Tatsumi family very well, since she deals with their textile store for the inn regularly. So we pack up and make our way to Tatsumi Textiles, where a strange boy is talking to the Tatsumi matriarch as we arrive. He ends up leaving pretty soon after, and Yosuke notices a red scarf on display for sale. Apparently, it's one half of a special order from the recently deceased TV announcer. Those of you with a keen memory probably have a great idea of where the other half of this order is. With that, Chie is convinced that the investigation can all be connected to the first case. And as we're exiting the textile shop, we spot Kanji with that same exact strange boy we walked in on earlier. All four of us quickly find a hiding spot. And I think it's safe to say that none of us will be winning any hide-and-go-seek competitions in the near future. It really wasn't hard to predict that we would be found out by Kanji, so we quickly run away and reconvene at a different location. One thing is for sure though, Kanji is most definitely a target for kidnapping, so we have no clue what ties him to the other three kidnapping victims. Eventually, we decide the best idea is to tail Kanji in a stakeout, which Chie seems super excited for. The next day, the gang and I are outside the front gate of the school, waiting for Kanji to make his move. I make the executive decision to split up. Yosuke's with Chie and Yukiko's with me. Team 1 will follow Kanji and Team 2 will stake out the textile shop. Obviously, this was all just a well-crafted ruse, so that I could spend some alone time with Yukiko and get to know her better. She admits that all of us hanging out together has been an awesome time. And this new connection established the Priestess social link with Yukiko Amagi. Since we're best friends now, I asked her for her contact information straight up, and she totally misunderstands, thinking like I'm trying to spit game or whatever, but you know, I got them digits anyway, dude. But we have to cut back to Team 1. Yosuke and Chie are tailing Kanji as he walks down the floodplain with that strange boy once again that we saw yesterday. Obviously, Kanji ends up making Chie and Yosuke's brilliant deflection is claiming that him and Chie are just crazy little lovebirds on a walk. Anyone, even someone as certifiably obtuse as Kanji, would notice that this is hogwash, balderdash. So he ended up chasing after them, trying to explain why he was walking with this strange boy, and that nothing weird is going on between them. It would appear that Yosuke and Chie were able to escape and arrived at the textile shop with their tails between their legs. But of course, Kanji intercepts all four of us outside of his house and tells us to get lost before he kicks our butts. And trust me, he ain't playing. So the group scatters and meets back up to discuss the tailing operation. Yosuke has come to the conclusion that if something is going to happen to Kanji, it's going to happen tonight. So we need to keep an eye on the Midnight Channel. And for once in his life, Yosuke hit the nail on the head. A clear and sharp image of what looks to be a bathhouse is live on the Midnight Channel, and Kanji Tatsumi is center stage. While you and I know that this is most likely the shadow Kanji speaking into us through the TV, Yosuke and the others will probably be confused why big bad Kanji Tatsumi is acting so weird on the television. But the most important thing is that we prepare for tomorrow and get a good night's rest. As class is letting out for the day, all four of us meet up and rehearse our plan. Save Kanji and stop the killer, in that order. Our little groups coming together activated another level of the investigation team social link, taking the Fool Arcana up to level 3. With that, we made our way into TV World and met up with Teddy, who unfortunately isn't able to locate Kanji as easily as he was compared to Yukiko. So we need to do some legwork for him and get some information. But before I go around town asking people questions about this person, I sold off some materials to Datara's workshop, got Yukiko a new fan, and finished some side quests at school. I delivered the statue to the shady student, gave some Ritz wire to another student, and then picked up another side quest from a homely student. I then went to talk to the textile shop owner, who said that the strange boy came around again asking about Kanji. So if anyone has info, it's him. All this running around has me parched, so I grab a drink from the vending machine and won myself a prize of another beverage. But the real prize is the Lucky Me achievement. But back to the investigation. Unfortunately for us, this strange boy hangs out at Jeunesse, but most typically he's seen on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and holidays. And since today is a Wednesday, I had to bide my time. So I went to soccer practice and got my diligence stat up, and activated another level of the Strength Arcana, getting it up to level 3. I spent the evening hanging out with Nanako. She asked if I'm an only child, which technically I am, but now that I've got 𝐻𝐼𝐼, that's not really true, is it? Papa Dojima mentions that the family wouldn't get any bigger either, but, here I am, a big brother to the cutest little cinnamon roll this side of Tokyo. With that cute little interaction, I've ranked up the Justice Arcana Social Link with 𝐻𝐼𝐼 to level 2. And it's been a stressful week, so I absorbed all those 𝐻𝐼𝐼 energy rays and chatted with her all night. The next morning, as Yosuke and I are chatting before class, a classmate exclaims that the midterm test results have finally been posted. We go to check it out, and an average score is my reward for all that studying. Not too bad. To get an average score, I'm happy with that. But more important than the midterms is the fact that the person that Kanji has been hanging out with recently is finally at Jeunesse and can provide us with some intel for Teddy. Hopefully the fact that Kanji, quote, had a complex and is, quote, an odd person will be enough for our bear friend. And with that, we go into TV World to start hour 13 and relay to Teddy what I've learned about Kanji. Teddy Sniffer took us to the changing room of a bathhouse, and I started making my way through the dungeon. I found some golden chests along the way and did a whole bunch of battles, and eventually made it up to the 3rd floor where Shadow Kanji was waiting for us. This rescue episode will be entitled Men Only, Kanji Tatsumi in Rosy Steam Paradise. Shadow Kanji ends up running off, leaving us to follow, but I spent a lot of health and spirit points getting this far, so I just popped a go home and hit up the Velvet Room to do some persona fusing. The only new persona I made today was Ippon Datara, before calling it there for TV World. Thanks to my average test scores, as I returned home, Papa Dojima gave me 10,000 yen, and I took all that to Datara's shop after school the next day. Combined with the funds I got for selling off all those materials from the dungeon session, I was able to purchase some upgraded armor for Yosuke and new shoes for Chie. Down at the floodplain, an old man gave me a fishing rod, and I ran into Adachi at Jeunesse. I chatted with him for a little bit and established yet another social link, the Jester Arcana of Toru Adachi. I then finished the day off by relaxing with 𝐻𝐼𝐼 in the living room. After taking a break from TV World yesterday, I gathered everyone back to the Strange Dimension on hour 14 to continue going through the bathhouse dungeon. I spent most of the hour just going up the floors and getting in fights with shadows. This spelunking session ended on floor 7 before popping a go home and making my way back to the Velvet Room to fuse some more personas. Today I made Anzu, Vitala, Principality, and Aramitama. But I also did my first ever triple fusion to craft Sarasvati, before calling it there for TV World and going back to bed to finish hour 14. I woke up on my day off to 𝐻𝐼𝐼 sitting alone at the kitchen table. She's growing vegetables at school and was given some seedlings to plant. Since we don't have a proper garden, I decided to make one for her with the tools and scrap on the side of the house. Not only did I make a lovely garden, but my diligence increased to persistent. More importantly though, 𝐻𝐼𝐼's happy and can complete her homework. I then spent the remainder of my day off reading expert study methods so that I can get smarter, faster. The next day, Yosuke caught me before school to assure me that we have plenty of time to save Kanji, and I'm sure it'll be easy peasy. After school, some guy at the bookstore needed a peach seed, and I so happened to have one, so I gave it to him, and my reward for that quick side quest completion was a book called The Gentle Way. I went over to Datara's and sold all my materials, along with the bead items that I got from all those treasure chests that I don't utilize that much, in exchange for some cash to buy a whole bunch of new weapons for me and the gang, along with a new accessory that will increase my spirit point pool, which is an instant equip. Then it was back to Jeunesse to do another deep dive into the bathhouse. In this session, we discovered the mini-boss for this dungeon on the 7th floor. Luckily for me, Shadow Kanji was all talk. Maybe it was because I did a lot of grinding or had new gear, but this mini-boss was a piece of cake compared to Yukiko's horse guy. After beating him, the gang and I made it through the entirety of the dungeon and stopped on floor 11 right before the boss room, since we were pretty low on spirit points. So I went back to the Velvet Room and fused some more personas. Today I made Yaxini, who I'm gonna have to blur out a little bit, and Shisa. When I arrived back at the house, 𝐻𝐼𝐼 was on the phone and happily told me that Papa Dojima was on his way back. But we didn't have any pickled radish for dinner, so I said I would take her to Jeunesse and get some. One trip to Jeunesse later is just enough to get 𝐻𝐼𝐼's social link up a level, and I now have the Justice Arcana up to level 3. However, when we returned, Dojima was already home and really got on me and 𝐻𝐼𝐼 for leaving at night. Even though it was for him, we're just getting him some pickled radish, man. Ease up. Just to spite him though, I'm going to take all that money he gave me for good grades, combined with some extra from sold materials, and spend it all on gear to do dangerous, life-threatening activities. I went and gathered the gang at Junes and went into TV World, where it was finally time to start the battle with Shadow Kanji. But before we do that, we need to hear real Kanji say the magic words. Shadow Kanji did a really great job in drawing out all of his inner demons and goading him into saying the phrase that I've heard one too many times. "You're not me," thus prompting Shadow Kanji to transform into his true form. This boss battle was pretty straightforward. If anything, it was just annoying. Taking out the lackeys was easy since they were at least weak to some stuff, but the Shadow Kanji was an absolute tank with no vulnerability, so I just had to chip away at his health little by little until Yukiko got in the final shot to take him out. Unlike the other shadows, this Kanji shadow still had some fight in him. I guess it was more like a final, desperate plea for acceptance more than a fight, but since Kanji can't do anything the easy way, he threw one last haymaker at his shadow persona before finally being able to accept that this amalgam of his darkest thoughts was a piece of him. The bravery shown by this young man granted him his very own persona, Take Mikazuchi. All that excitement ended up knocking Kanji out, so the gang and I had to get him out of the dungeon to end the hour. All 5 of us arrived back at the electronics section in Junes, where a well-needed debriefing and unofficial introductions took place. With that, Kanji is saved, and the Midnight Channel murderer has been thwarted once again. I also got another achievement for rescuing Kanji. Back at home, Papa Dojima just wants to make sure that I'm not getting too gung-ho with my after-school activities, to which Nanako misinterprets as a disagreement. But don't worry, Nanako, there's no disagreements, all is well, we're all happy campers here. Now that Kanji is safe, I can spend some time focusing on social links and improving my stats. And that starts by hanging out with Yukiko after school. She admits that she is going to refuse to inherit her family in, and instead wants to become an interior designer. Since she's going to need some cash, I recommended checking out the bulletin board for a part-time job, and that little interaction got my social link up to level 2 in the Priestess Arcana. As the moon was high in the sky, I went over to the Shiroku store to exchange some blue quartz for inline skates, then did some light reading before bed, and finished the Expert Study Methods book. The next day, I got another question wrong for Yosuke during class, and then spent another afternoon with Yukiko, this time doing some grocery shopping since she wants to learn to cook. Another after-school session with her, and I now have level 3 in this social link, and Yukiko can even perform a follow-up attack the next time we go into battle. I spent this evening utilizing the Expert Study tactics to get double XP in knowledge. After school on May 27th, I ran into Adachi over at Junes, who is trying to avoid an old lady who has taken a shine to him for having the same name as one of her relatives. I guess he has a tough job serving the community, but all I really care about is getting that rank 2 in the Jester social link. That evening, the tomatoes that Nanako and I planted a couple days ago are ready for harvest, so we went out to the garden and got those cut down before I finished the day off by doing even more studying. While I was walking to school the next day, I overheard some of my classmates talking about a mail-order TV show that I'm going to have to try out soon. By the way, here are what my stats look like in case you guys were wondering. This is going to change a lot in the coming days, and a big reason of that is because I took a part-time job as a translator to help with my expression. To be more efficient in my job, I also picked up the English Made Easy book. While I was at the shrine, the fox had another side quest for me to start, and it begins by checking my shoebox at school where some unlucky lady has mistakenly put a love note meant for someone else. But I'm just trying to be a smart boy, so I spent the afternoon in the library solving some math problems before finishing the day off by starting my English translation book. On my day off, Ko was the first person to hit my line, so I decided to hang out with him and Daisuke at the shopping district. Daisuke mistakenly bought the lovely witch detective, so I was happy to take it off his hands when he offered. Chie eventually joined the group shenanigans, and we all had a great day off. I then spent my evening putting some more time into the English book. Then it was back to school, where Mr. Moron finally spit some knowledge that I could digest. It's been a while since I've graced the drama club with my presence, so I assured Yumi that I would be there after class. She and I had some more personal acting lessons, where she thanks me for being there for her when she's down in the dumps. But more importantly, I was able to progress the social link to level 4 for the Sun Arcana. That evening, I watched the TV mail order show for the first time, and decided to buy the Adios Shoes combo that I'm sure Chie will get some use out of. And then I finally finished my English Made Easy book. The next day, I promised Daisuke to attend soccer practice, so I did that and got my diligence up a little, and was formally introduced to our team manager, 𝐼𝐵𝐵𝐻𝐴RA, who has all the boys wrapped around her finger. Well, except Daisuke. He thinks girls are a pain in the ass, and I'm right there with you on that one, brother. Ko eventually shows up to help us practice and clean up, resulting in progress towards yet another social link. I now have level 4 in the Strength Arcana. When I returned home, Nanako did some shopping, so I made a soy sauce-based yakiniku bento and shared that with Yosuke on the roof for lunch the next day. As I was leaving class, I ran into the girl who wrote that love note a couple days ago, and I convinced her to confess to her crush in person, and I'm sure that'll go over fantastically. As I made my way to the library, I saw Ai just hanging out, and she asked me to skip class with her sometime, but I don't have the courage to say yes. So I just spent the afternoon in the library where I became an expert knowledge person guy. Shout out to Nanako for collecting my mail order delivery for me when I got home. If I could spend some time with her, I would, but I have some translating to do for work, and so my expression gets upgraded to eloquent. The next day, the girl who I suggested confess her feelings ended up successfully getting a boyfriend, which is great for her. But what's great for me is that the little fox dude at the shrine has another fat donation to collect, and I have another level in the Hermit Arcana social link and a discount on the TV ordering program. That evening, I found an old carton of milk in the fridge and decided to drink it. That yogurty texture increased my courage greatly. After school the next day, I picked up a side quest to feed a cat from a man in the shopping district, and then made a second attempt at the Rainy Day Beef Bowl challenge. I still am not able to complete it, but I did get some more stat boosts, which is nice. That evening, since my expression level is now eloquent, I could finally have a proper chat with Papa Dojima about the family dynamic and whatnot, progressing my social link in the Hierophant Arcana to level 2 to end this hour of gameplay. I was once again defeated by the Beef Bowl challenge to start hour 17, but it's so tough not to just take those stat increases, man. Nanako and I watched the Weather Channel this evening as the fog is expected to return tonight. I turned on the Midnight Channel and confirmed that no death shall occur this evening, and that the spooky shadow of the shopping district is once again stopped in its tracks. I had another day off on June 5th, so I spent the morning doing some translating and relaxed all evening with Nanako. As I was hanging on the roof with the gang after school the next day, Kanji showed up and formally introduced himself to the team. Just like Yukiko, but with a penchant for violence, Kanji decided that he wants to join the investigation squad. The final decision was left to me, and of course, I'm going to welcome him into the fold, which had the added benefit of progressing the full social link to level 4. Since Kanji is now officially a part of the team, we took him to the Junes food court for some steak, and he exchanged the price of his meal for some intel. Kanji has come into possession of a piece of paper with a bunch of lists, the most important of which being the dates of TV programs and appearances. Essentially, every person who has been kidnapped appeared on TV 2 days before they disappeared. The TV reporter, Saki, Yukiko, everyone. So the killer must be targeting people he's seen on TV. But why? There's hardly any motive there. I guess we'll find that out in due time, but the most important thing right now is making proper introductions between Kanji and Teddy. So we head on into the TV world and get those two acquainted, and equip Kanji with some magic glasses. After doing that, I spent the evening chatting with Dojima about family and blood and all kinds of deep stuff like that, progressing the Hierophant Arcana skill link to level 3. At school the next day, Professor Moran asked me to help out the student health organization, and I'm far too obedient to just say no. Over in the infirmary, I greet my fellow members and totally fail a memorization question, but you don't need to see that. What you do need to see, though, is that I met this student who will only identify himself as Saki Konishi's brother, and that he hates me and Yosuke. But I do convince him to help me clean stuff, so, step in the right direction, right? I then went home and spent the evening studying. At school the next day, I threw out a total guess for what the Japanese translation for Heiken Dai was, and it turned out to be correct, so I got some lucky friendship points with Yukiko and an expression stat boost. As class was letting out, Yosuke is adamant that he, Kanji, and I need to get motorcycles to impress the chicks and have them get up close and personal with us. So I made sure Kanji was equipped with some new armor in case Yosuke gets us into trouble. Over at Junes, I accepted a side quest to grow some cabbage and then finish off the hour by collecting the whole gang at the Junes food court. I wanted to start off hour 18 by trying to take another shot at the Contrarian King, but even with new people, it's no dice. So instead, I did a run at the bathhouse where a golden hand knocked me down and then did the dip. I went to the Velvet Room to fuse some personas, only to find Margaret alone. She admitted what I was thinking all along, that we're special to one another, establishing a brand new social link, that of the Empress, which is very fitting for Margaret. To progress this social link, I need to bring her personas with certain skills. The first of which is Ippon-Datra with Tsukukaja. So, I went ahead and made a persona with those qualifications and presented it to our Empress, where things became a little more intimate, but more importantly, it progressed the social link to level 2. Now I have to bring her a Matador with the Mahama skill. But now I can finally do what I came here to do, which is fuse some personas. Today I made Rakshasa and King Frost before calling it a day for TV World. When I arrived home, I found Papa Dojima and Adachi having some eagle for dinner. I told Dojima all about my plan to get a motorcycle, and he said that we could continue this conversation after I got my license. As I made my way to school, I was intercepted by Yosuke, who is like a kid on Christmas, knowing that we're getting some motorcycles soon. The first thing we did after school was head straight to take the motorcycle exam, which we both passed on our first try. As I arrived back at Inaba, I presented Papa Dojima with my new license, and he presented me with his old scooter that he fixed up extra special, that he's letting me have as a gift. Of course, I'm gonna give him a proper thank you before I take my first ever ride. I made it all the way to the train station and gained some courage points before I rode back home to study and gain some more knowledge. The next day, I walked to school with Chie, then hit up Datara's shop after class to sell some materials and buy Kanji a weapon. I spent the afternoon doing some more exploring on my scooter, where my courage level got up to brave, and then did even more studying that evening. Another day means another ride on the scooter, and I can now drive all the way to Okina Station. I picked up a side quest to hand out tissues, finished handing them all out, and collected my 5,000 yen. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough to buy a new outfit that I wanted, but at least I now have a place to buy new clothes. As I returned home to Inaba, I found Adachi buying groceries and hung out with him for a spell, and then did even more studying to finish the day. On my day off, Yukiko gave me a call early in the morning asking to hang out. So I accepted and met her at the park near the floodplain to taste some of her food. Unfortunately, her cooking skills leave little to be desired at this current time. But I encourage her to keep trying her best and affirm that I'm still having a good time, even though the food is inedible. This bald-faced lie progressed the Priestess social link to level 4, and I did my best Yukiko impression in the kitchen the next day. July 13th marks the start of summer clothes, so I break out the t-shirt and make my way to school. Once again, I get the answer wrong in class. Silly me for not knowing the difference between anaerobics and aerobics. After school, I spent another afternoon with Yukiko at the Junes food court, talking about how she's not going to inherit the inn. At least I got another level in the Priestess social link, and Yukiko can now heal severe ailments, like panic, fear, and rage during battle. I spent the evening doing more studying before overhearing some exciting news on the way to school the next day. The school camp will be happening next week, but before we get to that, I made sure to let I know that I am a courageous man now, and can skip class with her. Speaking of courage, I took my first ever long-haul scooter ride today, which also bumped up my courage a little bit. I've done a lot of studying recently, so I decided to take it easy this evening, and end hour 18 of gameplay with Nanako by doing some magic tricks. Yosuke is super stoked to tell me that he finally got his motorcycle as we're walking to school, and I'm super stoked to give him the correct answer for once in class. How my guy doesn't know what morale is, though, is beyond me. After school, Yosuke and I arrive at Okina Station on our super sick motorcycles that totally aren't scooters, and Kanji arrives on his bicycle. He goes off on his own little adventure as Yosuke and I attempt to look all cool and get chicks, which absolutely did not work as Yosuke expected it to. In an attempt to salvage the day and actually get some chicks, the lads had a little competition to get some girls' phone numbers. Of course, I was successful in chatting up this older woman and got her digits pretty easily. And when all the guys met back up, I gave the girl a call, and a man that I presumed to be her boyfriend answered the phone and told me to never call again, or else I would regret it. Now that might have been bad, but it wasn't as bad as Yosuke. He accidentally ended up calling up our classmate Hanako, who just so happened to be at the train station. She was more than happy to take up Yosuke's offer to go on an up-close and personal motorcycle ride, but gravity had different plans, leaving Yosuke without a lady and without his motorcycle. So he'll have to settle with getting up close and personal with Kanji on his bicycle on the way home. However, all that debauchery was soothed away as I spent the evening hanging out with Nanako. On the way to school the next day, Yukiko and I made plans to get some ingredients to make some curry at the summer camp, since we're all in the same group. Chie, Yukiko, and I all met up at the grocery store after school and got those purchased before I spent the entire evening studying. We cut to the next day where everyone is now at the summer camp, and Yosuke finally gets to enjoy Yukiko's cooking. Honestly, I tried to warn the guy, but he just wouldn't listen, and the end result was exactly what you'd imagine it would be. I also tried to eat it, but I lacked the courage to go through with it. Even when I tried to fake it, the intense gaze of the ladies forced me to take a solid bite. And just like my brother Yosuke, this curry was a knockout punch. I woke up in my tent next to Kanji and Yosuke, and I guess Kanji's having some trouble bonding with the other first year, so I let him crash here as long as he wants. But of course, Yosuke has to ruin the vibe by asking ridiculous and insensitive questions about Kanji's sexuality, to which Kanji felt the need to prove to us that he liked girls by going out and getting some right then and there. And once again, I tried to intervene, but even though my expression got upgraded to persuasive, I still couldn't keep Kanji from doing something crazy. I don't know how it happened, but he ended up going so crazy, he knocked himself out cold in the ladies' tent, forcing Yukiko and Chie to sleep in our tent with a little barrier constructed between me and Yosuke and them, of course. It would appear all is well the next morning, though, as Yosuke has convinced everyone to take a dip in the river. The ladies refused to go in without swimsuits, but wouldn't you know it, Yosuke came equipped with that scenario in mind. And there's absolutely nothing creepy about a high school boy bringing ladies' swimsuits to the function just in case something happens. I guess he got what he had coming to him, but I don't know why Yukiko and Chie had to dump both me and Kanji into the river along with them. I had another day off to start hour 20, and I spent the morning studying before running downstairs for dinner, where there's breaking news that Rise Kujikawa, an idol better known as Rosette, will be taking a break and returning to her family tofu shop in, of all towns, Inaba. At school the next day, Yosuke has finally connected the dots and concludes that Risa is the next target for the Midnight Channel killer. Chie put it perfectly when she said that Yosuke is far too pumped up to be tailing a potential murder victim, no matter how pretty she is. But first and foremost, we're students, so answering questions right and acquiring knowledge is the most important thing. Now, I know it might seem ironic, but I decided to cut class with Ai as soon as I got the opportunity. I met her at the shoe lockers and we took a trip to Okina Station, where I was essentially Ai's bag carrier. I guess she had a good time swiping that card because I established a brand new social link with her, that of the Moon Arcana. After school, I decided to run around town and collect some side quests from a classmate, a girl at the shopping district, and an old lady at the floodplain, before grabbing some cabbage and crack wheat seedlings at Junette's. I then went and grabbed 3 more side quests, one from Datara, another from an old lady, and a final one from an old man by the shrine, before taking another long drive on my scooter and grabbing yet another courage stat increase. When I got home for the evening, I decided to plant some cabbage seedlings with Nanako and Papa Dojima in the garden and investigate the fridge where a sack of wasabi was going unused. So I gave it a good lick and enjoyed a solid courage boost with the pain. Speaking of courage, the next day I did a final long-haul scooter trip and was rewarded with the ability to go to the beach and another courage point. I decided that I needed to throw myself into the sea to celebrate this moment and got yet another courage boost along with an understanding boost. As day turned to night and the rain came down, I turned on the Midnight Channel where a young woman that looks like Rise Kujikawa has appeared on the TV screen. I guess we can't know for sure whether it's her or not since they didn't show her face. That being said, Yosuke is 100% sure that it's her by her hairstyle. Sure, buddy, it's the hairstyle you recognized. Yosuke really is gung-ho this time around. The first thing we do when school ends the next day is make our way to the tofu shop that Risa is allegedly working at. When we arrive, there is quite a scene. Adachi is even there directing traffic and serving as a police presence. Eventually, the mob lightens up and the boys are able to go inside. And wouldn't you believe it, the rumors are true. Risa Kujikawa is working at a tofu shop in Inaba. She even saw the Midnight Channel last night. But she said it isn't her for some very specific reasons that I won't mention. But all we know for right now is that she's safe. So we decide to leave, but Papa Dojima and Adachi are not far behind to confirm her safety. While at dinner, Dojima asked what we talked to Risa about, and I technically didn't lie when I said gossip. So checkmate, Mr. Detective Man. Another rainy evening means another night of watching the Midnight Channel, and now I can 100% confirm that Risa is the next victim. So the entire gang gathers at Junes to plan yet another stakeout. This time around, we've decided to pick up some snacks at the Shiroku store, where we ran into Adachi. And the prevailing opinion is that we should allow him to come along on our stakeout, since it would be a good idea to have a police presence. As we're hanging out around the tofu shop, we spot a very suspicious man with a camera chilling on a light pole, who starts sprinting away from us as soon as we make contact with him. Me and the boys tackle him before he can fling himself into oncoming traffic, and Adachi gets him cuffed and taken to the police station. And just like that, the killer's been caught, right? Wrong. The Midnight Channel is up and running that evening, and it looks like Rise Kujikawa has been successfully kidnapped and thrown into the TV world, as her shadow says she's going to bear it all. Obviously, we can't let that happen. So the entire gang beelines it to TV world after school the next day, but Teddy's sniffing skills are still shot, so we'll need to gather some more intel for him first. He does seem to be pretty down about not being of better assistance, but I assure him that I've got his back, and his nose will be back together in no time. With that reassurance, I've established yet another social link, this one with Teddy and the Star Arcana. According to Risa's grandmother, there is a paparazzi guy who hangs out at the floodplains, but before I go find him, I picked up a side quest from Miss Sofu. As I searched for the paparazzo, a nice guy near the floodplain said that he hasn't seen him today, so I'll have to come back tomorrow. Since I had some time to kill, I decided to hang out with Ai. She took me down to Okina Station to do some more shopping, and got unreasonably clingy, even though I've only known her for the better part of a couple days. I don't even care that the shopkeeper called me handsome, I just care that I got level 2 of her social link. When I got home, I went over to talk with Nanako, and she opened up with a pretty deep question about death. So I had to sit her down and tell Nanako the hard truths of life. Obviously, I couldn't tell her whether or not heaven exists, as that's a pretty subjective and divisive thing to talk about. So I told her the most comforting thing I could think of. She then asked, why do people do bad things? But she put it very eloquently that it makes sense that I wouldn't know, because I'm not a bad guy. Anyway, this deep chat with Nanako earned me progress up to level 4 of the Chariot Arcana social link. The next day, I walked to school with Chie and went straight to the floodplain when classes ended to talk to the paparazzo. I had to shake some information out of him, but I got enough to take to Teddy in TV world. Luckily, it was enough to locate Risa, and myself and the gang arrived at the entrance to her dungeon. I know you're not going to say it, so I will. This is a strip joint. Shadow Risa has crafted a strip club dungeon. The next hour of gameplay was spent entirely in Risa's dungeon fighting shadows and progressing up the floors. I found a golden hand on the second floor and was able to dispatch that for the sweet EXP and money boost. And with that enemy destroyed, I managed to get up to level 25 and unlocked a room for a total of 10 personas in my heart. I also had Yukiko finish off another enemy fight to get a shuffle time that's a special one, since I was able to get a sweet bonus. My 50th sweet bonus of the playthrough, rewarding me with the Fill Your Hand achievement. The gang and I eventually made it up to floor 3, where Shadow Risa introduces her program, the 𝐴𝐵 Midsummer Night Dream Special, Rosette Exposed All the Way. After dropping the title, Shadow Risa runs away, leaving us to give chase, ending this hour of gameplay. As I continued through the dungeon, the gang and I defeated a shadow that boosted me up to level 30, allowing for a total of 12 personas to be used, and up on the 7th floor, we finally caught up with Shadow Risa. Here we encountered a fight with her mini-boss, this large snake girl or guy or whoever. It's a big-ass snake. This fight was pretty difficult for me. If it wasn't for the fire damage items I picked up throughout the dungeon, I probably would have had to retreat and try again. But Kanji managed to dispatch the snake, and we were able to continue going up the floors. We made it all the way up to floor 8 before realizing I didn't have any go-homes on me. So I had to make my way all the way back down, floor by floor, being careful not to get into any fights because I had barely any spirit points left. I was eventually able to make it down and enter the Velvet Room to do some persona fusing. I made Nigi Mitama, Kusi Mitama, the Unicorn, Power, Nozuchi, Incubus, who again I've had to censor, and Lamia, who also needs to be censored. To end this hour of gameplay, I went home and had a relaxing evening chatting with Nanako. I started hour 23 by buying a myth-like sword from the TV store, and then doing some gardening work with Nanako by harvesting some cabbages and planting some wheat. I then went over to Datara's shop to sell off the materials and purchase some armor for Yukiko, Kanji, and Yosuke, before going down to the beach to do some swimming and improve my courage. I then spent the evening doing some more studying. The next day, I correctly answered Professor Moron's questions about what identity meant, and got a nice knowledge stat boost that finally bumped my ability up to professor level. I finished a side quest after school, and the reward was 5 go-homes, an absolute godsend for me. I really wish I had these a couple days ago, though. Why do I say that? Well, I gathered the gang back at Junes to go into the TV world, and learned that if you run all the way back down the dungeon and re-enter, you can't teleport back up to the highest floor that you reach. So, I had to go through the entire dungeon all over again. So that took quite a big chunk of time. But I did manage to go all the way back to floor 8 and then some, making my way all the way up to floor 11 and into the boss room to start my final hour of gameplay. Shadow Risa is ready to do her monologue and spill all of the real Risa's deepest and darkest insecurities in order to get her to say those 3 little words that you and I both know she's going to say. And now, me and the gang have to take out this Technicolor stripper with an antenna for a face. Now this boss fight is special. It's not that difficult, but it really isn't designed to be difficult. It's designed to be super annoying, but once you get the boss down to about half health, she'll do this green little identification thing. From that point on, you can't do any damage, and you get kicked out of the fight 3 turns after she does it. Cut back to the entire gang at center stage, and she does this whole little green data cube thing again, this time causing a massive explosion. As she's powering up to do yet another massive attack, Teddy steps in to save the day. My man goes Super Saiyan and self-detonates on the Shadow Risa, leaving her incapacitated and him looking like a cartoon that got run over by a car. Thanks to Teddy, Risa has the opportunity to admit that the Shadow version speaks some truth and that all those thoughts are a part of her, disintegrating the Shadow Risa and granting the real Risa with her very own persona, Himiko. While everyone was freaking out over Risa, no one noticed that Teddy was exhibiting some weird quirks. It turns out that Teddy also has a shadow self and has reared its ugly head. The funny part is Teddy never said, "You're not me." All he did was say, "Shut up." But Shadow Teddy wasn't having any of it, claiming that the only truth that we would encounter as a group here is that we would all die in this room. But lucky for us, Rise can take Teddy's spot in directing us in the fight. This boss fight was honestly the easiest of the bunch for me. Shadow Teddy telegraphs his super move, and as long as you guard before it, it does literally no damage. All you have to do in this fight is slowly chip away at Shadow Teddy's health, heal when you need to, and dispel any negative effects he puts on your party. It took me about 16 minutes because Shadow Teddy's kind of a tank, but Kanji eventually got the last hit to put this Shadow Bear out of its misery. Much like humans, Teddy has been holding on to some pretty dark thoughts. But with the encouragement and support from us, his friends, he was able to confront those voices and claim his very own persona, Kintoki Duji. Risa was understandably exhausted after being in the TV world for so long, so we took her to the entrance point, where Teddy promptly started his workout routine. He has vowed to get stronger so that he can find where he fits into our story. And this decision prompted progress in the Star Arcana social link with Teddy, taking it to level 2. And with that, Rise Kujikawa was rescued, I got an achievement, and I can return home to have dinner with Nanako, where an intoxicated Papa Dojima arrives with the assistance of Tadachi. Nanako got his futon ready for him, and we end the 24 hours with, as Nanako so eloquently puts it, the stink of sake, heavy in the air of the Dojima residence. Thanks so much for watching my video. As I mentioned in the intro, this is my first time ever playing a Persona game, and it's honestly been such a blast. It was so hard to stop playing and edit this video, but I did it, and I hope you guys liked it. If you want to see me play another 24 hours, hitting that subscribe button and enabling notifications lets me know that this is what you want to see. Smashing the like button also serves that purpose, but it also has the added benefit of helping this video get into recommended feeds. In addition, so does leaving a comment, so leave a comment telling me what your favorite Persona character is. Or you could just do it for the algorithm, that would be super cool too, and I appreciate those of you who do that. If you want to get more involved with my community, please follow me on Twitter and Twitch for cat pics and live streams respectively. Those are both linked in the description. My personal Discord is also linked in the description. A big reason why I decided to play Persona was because a lot of the people in there recommended it to me. So come on in, and I'm sure you'll have a great time. And that's about it. I wanted to thank you personally for making it all the way to this point, and I hope that I will see you in my next video.